Stellar Blade has bamboozled me, and I need my audience to set me straight. With all the comparisons going around likening Eve to Bayonetta in 2B, I assumed that the game was going to be another character action game in the same vein as those two. But just as I settled into play, Stellar Blade ripped off its skin-tight bodysuit and revealed it was a Soulslike, a genre that I have no love for, but my $70 was spent, there was an easy mode if things got too rough, I figured how bad could it be. I ended up really surprised by how much I liked Stellar Blade. With all the conversation being around Eve, I figured the gameplay just wasn't interesting and the game would be a slog. But no, this was some really interesting and gripping combat that I enjoyed immensely. Where Nier and Bayonetta are flashy combo juggler power fantasies, Stellar Blade retains all the styles and layers strategy on top of it, making the combat connect with me much more, as I had to be conscious of my actions. But for this video, I'd like to go over the main reasons why I think games like Dark Souls wouldn't appeal to me, explain how Stellar Blade fixes them, and then ask you if it's worth giving those games a try. Reason 1 of why I think I wouldn't like Soulslikes. The Souls mechanic permanently erasing progress. Stellar Blade solves this by not having a Souls mechanic. Moving on. Reason 2 for why I don't think I'd like Soulslikes is the depressing atmosphere combined with brutal difficulty. I like a hard game once in a while, and I can be pretty persistent, but only when the game itself encourages me to beat it. A game like Celeste is the perfect hard game, because the entire experience is built around motivating the player into reaching the top of the mountain, constantly pushing you and Madeline past your limits to reach an insurmountable goal. The Souls games look so morose and depressing, and the gloomy atmosphere would infect me. If there's no reason for me to struggle against a hideous abomination, why wouldn't I just give in? There's no world left for me to save, so what's the point in even fighting? Stellar Blade solves this with its flashy and over-the-top visuals that dazzle and invigorate me in a fight, rather than dampening my enthusiasm against an enemy that I feel I can't overcome. It's worth mentioning that I haven't beaten Stellar Blade because I'm stuck on a boss fight at the emotional low point of the game, where several characters are dead. I'm also entirely mentally exhausted from just overcoming 2 nail-biting boss fights just before that one, and I get the feeling I still have a ways to go, and it's only going to get harder. But I thought I was going to quit at the boss before the one I'm stuck on, but the epic and orbital scale of the boss fight pushed me to see it through, because it credibly felt like such a cinematic moment that I had to overcome. When I came back to the game and defeated it, I felt amazing, only to be kicked back down again with another grueling fight. And I'm afraid that's what all Souls games are going to be, overcoming an incredibly tough obstacle, feeling unstoppable, just to be immediately curb-stomped by the next big bad who sucks away all my enthusiasm for the game. Reason 3 I think I won't like Souls games. Clunky combat versus lightning-fast boss battles. Whenever I've observed gameplay of Dark Souls, the knight just looks so cumbersome, and the bosses look lethal. It makes me wonder how it's possible to dodge all those attacks when the character is so slow, and that dodging looks quite finicky and inconsistent. Stellar Blade fixes this with a responsive and fluid character that moves quickly and gracefully to avoid and evade enemy attacks. It might sound weird, but I started turning the boss attack patterns into musical scores. I matched the combos onto my controller. It gave me a glorious rush of dopamine to match the audio cues of the boss into reflexes on my DualSense, and the fluidity and rhythm of the game started to sing for me. Reason 4 that I think I don't like Soulslikes is healing being so slow. I think I would genuinely lose my mind if I was about to take down a boss and have 5 Estus flasks available, but because I decided to take a swig, I got my head chopped off by an attack I couldn't cancel my animation for. That just feels like such a deal breaker to me. I get that there needs to be risk involved in going for a heal, but the Dark Souls healing method just looks too slow to keep up with the ferocious pace of battle. So how does Stellar Blade fix this? You'll notice the title of this video is Stellar Blade Almost Made Me Like Soulslikes, because if there's one thing this game messes up, it's healing. I can't even begin to describe how maddening it is to be in such a fast-paced, reflex-heavy battle and be forced to spend nearly 3 full seconds healing in a non-cancelable animation. This healing animation honestly made me quit the game at the aforementioned boss fight. It feels like they just took the healing method from Dark Souls, without realizing that their game is much quicker, and that taking so long to heal is basically serving the player up on a plate every time they need to inject themselves. So I turn to you, viewer. Based on the reasoning I've given as to why Stellar Blade almost won me over to the Souls-like scene, do you think I'd actually enjoy any of these games? Or should I just continue to stay far away from them so that I can never criticize any design flaws that I find? I'll be back in 2 days. In the meantime, here's a video about how the skin suit in Stellar Blade is a genius idea for a difficulty option.